We are 5-1 in our last 6 college football tier package picks on BrockPage.com. And if you want to see which one of these free YouTube picks on this video that I'm actually betting on personally, there's only one way to do that, and that's to sign up for my college football tier package picks on BrockPage.com. We're also 8-1 in our last 9 NFL tier package picks on that very same website. We currently have over 920 members who are signed up and active on BrockPage.com. And once again, if you want to see which one of these free YouTube picks on this video that I'm actually betting on personally, there's only one way to do that, and that's to sign up for my college football tier package picks on BrockPage.com. Now, Troy takes on Coastal Carolina, 7:30 p.m. Eastern kickoff this Thursday night. Coastals minus 18.5, totals 52 and a hook. The Chants are coming off a 30-27 loss to Appalachian State. They also failed to cover the number in 3 out of their last 4 meetings with Troy. Coastal's 86th in the country in third quarter points allowed. They're taking on a Trojans team who's played quite well defensively this season. They're holding their opponents to just 94 yards a game rushing, and they also rank in the top 10 in the nation in fewest yards allowed per play. Now, Harris, Jabuner, and Williams, they each have a pair of interceptions out of this Trojan defense. Solomon and Jabuner, they also have 7.5 sacks apiece. Now, Troy's got themselves a top 25 pass defense as well. And when it comes to the total on this one, Troy's gone 4-0 to the over in their last 4 meetings with Coastal. Meanwhile, the Chants saw 3 out of their last 4 home games get over the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward Troy plus 18.5 in the over 52 and a hook. Next game, USF versus East Carolina, 7:30 Eastern kickoff on Thursday. ECU's minus 9.5, numbers 57. The Pirates have successfully covered the point spread in their last 3 straight. 4-1 against the spread in their last 5. Now, ECU's in the top 10 in the nation in fourth quarter scoring, and they're led by quarterback Holden Ahlers, who's thrown for nearly 1,800 yards, along with 10 touchdowns. And they're taking on a South Florida squad who allows over 40 points a game on the road, and they rank 123rd in yards allowed per play. Now, total-wise, when it comes to the number in this one, 4 out of USF's last 6 ball games got over the line. ECU saw 3 out of their last 5 get over the number themselves. I'm going to lean toward East Carolina minus 9.5 in the over 57. Next game, Navy versus Tulsa, 7:30 Eastern kickoff this Friday. Tulsa's minus 11, numbers 47. Tulsa's failed to cover the number in 3 out of their last 4 home games. They're giving up over 32 points per contest, and they rank 103rd in yards allowed per play at home. They're taking on a Navy team who's in the top 25 in rushing. The midshipmen have also done a real nice job covering the point spread. They're 4-1 against the number in their last 5 ball games. They've also beaten Tulsa in 6 out of their last 8 meetings, and they also went 6-2 against the spread in those very same ball games as well. Now, total-wise, Tulsa's gone 6-0 to the over in their last 6 contests. 3-1 to the over at home. I'm going to lean toward Navy plus 11 in the over 47. Next contest, it is going to be UNLV versus Nevada, 10 o'clock Eastern kickoff this Friday. Nevada's minus 21, totals 59. As good as the Wolfpacks looked in many games this year, they've certainly had their struggles defensively. Nevada's currently 104th in the country in pass defense at home. They're also 119th in first quarter points allowed. They're taking on a UNLV team who's a perfect 3-0 against the spread in their road games this year. And as a matter of fact, the Rebels have covered the number in 71% of their ball games for the entire season. UNLV is in the top 20 in the nation in fewest first quarter points allowed on the road. Jacoby Windman has 66 tackles on the year, along with 1.5 sacks. Now, total-wise, 2 out of the Rebels' last 3 road games stayed under the line. 6 out of their last 10 meetings with the Wolfpack stayed under the total as well. I'm going to lean toward the UNLV Runnin' Rebels plus 21 and the under 59. Next contest, Texas State versus Louisiana, 12 o'clock Eastern kickoff this Saturday. Louisiana's minus 21, totals 57. But as good as the Cajuns have looked this season, they've also had problems covering the number. They failed to cover in 3 out of their last 4 ball games, and they also find themselves covering in just 29% of their contests for the entire season. Now, Louisiana's got a bunch of guys on the injury report for Saturday. They're certainly banged up right now. Meanwhile, defensively, they're actually 96th in the country in third quarter points allowed. They're taking on a Texas State team who covered in 2 out of their last 3 ball games. One of those covers was an outright victory against a pretty good South Alabama team. Now, Markavion Coleman, he has a couple of forced fumbles and 47 total tackles on the season. And when it comes to the total on this one, 2 out of the Bobcats' last 3 road games fell under the number. Meanwhile, Louisiana's 6-1 to the under for the entire year. I'm going to lean toward Texas State plus 21 and the under 57. Next contest, it is going to be Cincinnati versus Tulane, 12 o'clock East. Cincinnati's minus 24, total 62.5. The undefeated Bearcats have successfully covered the number in 4 out of their last 5 ball games. They're also allowing just 14 points a game, and they rank in the top 5 in the country in fewest yards allowed from scrimmage. Deshaun Pace and Arquan Bush, they have 3 interceptions apiece. Pace also has 54 total tackles on the year. Cincinnati's holding their opponents to only 163 passing yards a game. They're taking on a 1-6 Tulane squad who allows over 42 points per contest, and they rank 128th in pass defense. Now, total-wise, Tulane's 6-1 to the over for the season. Since he saw 2 out of their last 3 get over the line, I'm going to lean towards Cincinnati minus 24 and the over 62.5. Next ball game, Michigan versus Michigan State, 12 o'clock Eastern start time. The Michigan Wolverines are minus 4.5, totals 52. But despite being one of the best rushing teams in college football, the Wolverines have done very little to establish any type of passing threat. They're currently 104th in pass yards per game, and they throw for only $1.89 per contest. This Michigan defense is also 115th in third quarter points allowed on the road. Now they're taking on a Spartans team who's 7-0 thus far in the season, 6-1 against the spread in those victories. Sparty scoring 38 points a game on their home field, and they're in the top 10 in offensive yards per play. Kenneth Walker III is just 3 yards shy of 1,000 already. He's scored 9 times on the ground and averages over 6.5 yards a carry. Walker's also averaging over 142 rushing yards a game. Meanwhile, defensively, Sparty's in the top 25 in yards given up from scrimmage. Now, total-wise, 4 out of Sparty's last 5 ball games fell under the total. They're also 60% to the under in their last 10 meetings with Michigan. I'm going to lean toward Michigan State, the Spartans, plus 4.5, and the under 52. Next ball game, Texas versus Baylor, 12 o'clock East. The Baylor Bears are minus 2.5, total 62. The 6-1 Bears are undefeated in 4 games at home this year, and equally as impressive, Baylor successfully covered the point spread in all 4 of those home victories. Baylor scored 45 points a game at McLean Stadium this year. That's what they're averaging, and they're also in the top 3 in offensive yards per play. Abram Smith is averaging 7.5 yards a carry, and he scored 10 times already on the ground. The senior running back is also averaging over $112 a game rushing. Meanwhile, defensively, Baylor gives up only 18 points a game, and they rank in the top 25 in fewest first quarter points allowed. They're taking on a Texas team who's on a 2-game losing streak, and they allowed 87 total points in those 2 losses. The Longhorns have a slew of guys on the injury report. They're also 109th in yards allowed per play, and they give up 34 points a game on the road. Now, total-wise, 4 out of the Longhorns' last 6 ball games got over the line. Baylor's 5-1 to the over in their last 6. I'm going to lean toward Baylor, minus 2.5, and the over 62. Next contest, it is going to be Bowling Green versus Buffalo, 12 o'clock Eastern kickoff. Buffalo's minus 12.5, numbers 53. Buffalo's on a 2-game winning streak, 72 total points they scored during that stretch. The Bulls are rushing for over 200 yards a game. They're led by running back Dylan McDuffie, who gains over 5.5 yards a carry, and he has also scored 7 times on the ground. The Bulls are in the top 25 in fourth quarter scoring at home. They're taking on a Bowling Green team who lost their last 4 straight, and they allow nearly 275 rush yards a game on the road. Now, total-wise, Bowling Green's last 3 straight got over the number. I'm going to lean toward Buffalo, minus 12.5, and the over 53. Next contest, Iowa versus Wisconsin, 12 o'clock Eastern start time. Wisconsin's minus 3.5, totals 37, but despite their current winning streak, the Badgers are really banged up right now. Bunch of guys on the injury report. Wisconsin also failed to cover the number in 3 out of their last 4 home games. They've done an absolutely pitiful job passing the football. Wisconsin is throwing for just 146 yards a game, and that is certainly not going to get the job done against this great Hawkeye defense. The last thing you want to be is one-dimensional against a defense as good as Iowa's. And speaking of this Iowa defense, they've got a top 10 rush defense, just 89 yards a game they're allowing on the ground. Jack Campbell's got 64 tackles along with 2 fumble recoveries and a scoop and score. The Hawkeyes have 21 total takeaways thanks to an absurd 16 interceptions from this defense. I was in the top 10 in fewest yards allowed per play. When it comes to the total in this one, 71% of Iowa's ball games this year stayed under the line. Meanwhile, Wisconsin saw 3 out of their last 4 at Camp Randall stay under the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Iowa, plus 3.5, and the under 37. Next game, Indiana versus Maryland, 12 o'clock East. Maryland's minus 3, totals 50.5. Maryland's 3-1 straight up on their home field. Top 15 in the country in home passing. Talia Tungavailoa is completing over 71% of his passes for nearly 2,000 yards already. Maryland's in the top 25 in first quarter scoring at home. They're taking on an Indy squad who failed to cover the point spread in their last 5 straight. The Hoosiers are scoring only 13 points a game on the road, and they're 126th in the country in offensive yards per play. Now, total-wise, oddly enough, 4 out of Indy's last 6 ball games did get over the posted number. They also went 5-2 to the over in their last 7 meetings with Maryland. And speaking of the Terps, they saw 2 out of their last 3 get over the line themselves. Give me the Maryland Terrapins minus 3 and the over 50.5. Next contest, UMass versus Liberty, 12 o'clock Eastern start. Liberty's minus 36, totals 58.5. The Flames have won 3 out of their last 4 ball games. Top 20 in the country in home scoring. Malik Willis has thrown for nearly 1,700 yards and has rushed for over 640. The quarterback's responsible for 26 total touchdowns on the year. Liberty's in the top 5 in the country in first quarter scoring at home. They're taking on a UMass team who allows over 54 points a game on the road. They also failed to cover the number in all 3 of their road losses. Now, when it comes to the scoring in this one, 3 out of the Minutemen's last 4 ball games fell under the number. Meanwhile, Liberty went 4-1 to the under in their last 5. Give me Liberty, minus 36, and the under 58.5. Next ball game, Miami, Pitt, 12 o'clock East. The Pitt Panthers are minus 10, total 62. Pitt's on a 4-game winning streak, 6-1 against the spread overall for the season. The Panthers are averaging 49 points a game at Heinz Field, and they're in the top 5 in the country in home passing. Kenny Pickett's thrown for over 2,300 yards along with 23 touchdowns. Pickett's also run the football into the end zone 3 times, has thrown only 1 interception all season long. Pitt's leading the nation in second quarter scoring. They're going up against a Miami squad who's 94th in the country in pass defense. The Canes are also giving up 30 points a game on the road. Now, total-wise, Miami's 3-1 at the over in their last 4 ball games. Pitt saw 3 out of their last 4 home games get over the line. Give me Pitt minus 10 in the over 62. Next ball game, Rutgers, Illinois, 12 o'clock Eastern kickoff. Rutgers is minus 1.5, totals 42. Rutgers is on a 4-game losing streak where they were held to 13 points or less in all 4 of those losses. The Scarlet Knights are scoring only 12 points per game on the road, and they rank 126th in offensive yards per play away from home. They're taking on an Illinois team who just upset number 7 Penn State in 9 overtimes. Illinois has also done a really nice job covering the number this year. They're 4-1 against the spread in their last 5. When it comes to the scoring in this one, Illinois is 7-1 to the under for the season. Rutgers is 3-0 to the under when traveling. I'm going to lean toward Illinois plus 1.5 and the under 42. Next contest, UCF versus Temple, 12 o'clock Eastern start time. UCF's minus 11, totals 52. And for a team laying double digits in this spot here, the Knights have been awful lousy when traveling. Central Florida's 0-3 straight up on the road, and they failed to cover in all 3 of those losses. The Knights allow 44 points a game away from home, and they're giving up over 290 rush yards a game on the road as well. They're taking on a Temple team who won 2 of 3 at the Link this year. It's also going to be in the 50s with potential rain in South Philly on Saturday as well. Not the nicest of weather for the traveling Knights. Now, the Temple Owls have the number 1 ranked pass defense at home in the country. They're allowing just 125 pass yards a game at the Link. MJ Griffin has 44 tackles and a fumble recovery. When it comes to the scoring in this one, 2 out of Temple's last 3 got over the line. UCF's 3-0 to the over when traveling. I'm going to lean toward Temple plus 11 in the over 52. Next contest, Virginia Tech versus Georgia Tech, 12 o'clock East. Georgia Tech's minus 4, totals 55. The Yellow Jackets have failed to cover in their last 3 straight. They're also struggling to stop the pass. Georgia Tech's ranking they rank 105th in pass defense. They're taking on a Hokies team who's allowing under 205 pass yards per game defensively themselves. Jermaine Waller has 4 interceptions on the season, 28 tackles and a pick 6. The Hokies are allowing only 23 points a game. Now, total-wise, Virginia Tech's 71% to the under for the season. Give me Virginia Tech plus 4 in the under 55. Next game, Iowa State versus West Virginia, 2 o'clock Eastern kickoff. Iowa State's minus 7, totals 47.5. The Cyclones are just 3-4 against the spread overall for the season. They've also lost 5 out of their last 9 against West Virginia. And speaking of the Mountaineers, it really doesn't matter what their record is at any point in time. These guys are very tough to beat in Morgantown. The Mountaineers also tend to like to get off to a hot start. They're in the top 10 in first quarter scoring. Letty Brown's rushed for 9 touchdowns and averages nearly 5 yards a carry. The Mountaineers have covered the number in 4 out of their last 6 ball games. West Virginia is 71% to the under for the year. Iowa State's 4-3 to the under themselves. Give me West Virginia plus 7 in the under 47.5. Next contest, North Texas, Rice, 2 o'clock East. Rice is minus 3, totals 55 and a hook. And despite a handful of really good games out of Rice, they're still struggling defensively. The Owls are giving up over 37 points a game, and they rank 109th in rush defense. They're taking on a North Texas squad who's done a real nice job against the number recently, despite their record. North Texas is 3-1 against the spread in their last 4, and they're rushing for nearly 220 yards a game. DeAndre Torrey has rushed for 853 yards already, along with 7 touchdowns on the ground. Torrey's gaining over 121 yards a game rushing. North Texas is also in the top 20 in fourth quarter scoring on the road. Now, total-wise, the Mean Green's last 3 straight got over the number. Rice is 71% to the over themselves. Give me North Texas +3 and the over 55.5. Next game, WAZZU, Arizona State, 3 o'clock East. Arizona State's -15, total's 51 and a hook. The Sun Devils are a little bit banged up right now. They're also coming off a 35-21 loss to Utah before the bye week. The Sun Devils are throwing for under 210 yards a game at home. They're taking on a Washington State team who's been absolute covering machines. The Cougs are 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 straight, 2-0 against the number when traveling. WAZZU's giving up only 15 points a game away from home, and they're holding their opponents to just 144 yards a game passing on the road as well. Jahad Woods has 61 tackles thus far in the season. Justice Rogers with 47. When it comes to the number in this one, the Cougs are 5-1 of the under in their last 6. Arizona State's 3-1 of the under at home. Give me Washington State +15 and the under 51.5. Next ball game, Mizzou, Vandy, 3 o'clock East. Missouri's -16, total 63. Mizzou's failed to cover the point spread in all 7 of their contests this season. They also have a good amount of guys banged up. The Tigers are giving up nearly 310 pass yards a game on the road. They're taking on a Vanderbilt squad who doesn't do a whole lot right themselves. I'm not going to make any mistake about it. But they have successfully covered the point spread in 5 out of their last 9 meetings with Missouri. Now, total-wise, Vandy's 3-0 to the under in their last 3 straight, 8-1 to the under in their last 9 meetings with the Tigers. I'm going to lean toward Vandy +16 in the under 63. Next contest, Hawaii, Utah State, 3 o'clock Eastern kickoff. Utah State's -5.5, total 65. The Aggies are on a 2-game winning streak, top 15 in the country in pass offense. Logan Bonner's thrown for over 1,750 yards, along with 13 touchdowns. Wide receiver Devin Tompkins has 923 total receiving yards and averages over 131 receiving yards a game. The Aggies are in the top 15 in fourth quarter scoring. They're taking on a Hawaii team who struggles away from the island, just 1-3 straight up on the road. They failed to cover in 3 of those road games. Hawaii's really struggled defensively. They're allowing 36 points a game away from home, and they rank 126th in pass defense. Now, total-wise, the Rainbow Warriors are 3-1 to the under on the road. Utah State's 3-1 to the under at home. Give me Utah State -5.5 in the under 65. Next contest, Georgia, Florida, 3:30 p.m. East. The Georgia Bulldogs are -14, totals 51. The undefeated Bulldogs are 3-1 against the number in their last 4 ball games, 2-0 against the spread in their last 2 on the road. The Bulldogs have the best defense in college football. They've held their opponents to 13 points or less in all 7 of their victories. They're first in the country in defensive yards per play. Adam Anderson has 4.5 sacks on the season, 25 total tackles for the linebacker. Channing Tindall also has 33 tackles himself. The Bulldogs allow just 33 rush yards a game when traveling. They're taking on a Florida State team who lost 2 out of their last 3 and allowed 49 points to LSU in their last outing. Meanwhile, offensively, the Gators have the 92nd ranked pass offense at home. They also rank 114th in second quarter scoring at home as well. And when it comes to the number in this one, the Gators are 4-0 to the under in the Swamp. Georgia's 3-0 to the under in their last 3. Give me Georgia -14 in the under 51. Next contest, it is going to be Louisiana Tech versus Old Dominion, 3:30 p.m. East. Louisiana Tech's -5.5, totals 52 and a hook. La Tech's on a 3-game losing streak, 1-4 straight up in their last 5. The Bulldogs are also winless on the road this season, and they're giving up over 300 pass yards a game when they travel. Old Dominion's covered 2 out of their last 3 home games, 4-3 against the spread overall for the season. The Monarchs are holding their opponents to just $110 rushing a game at home. Ryan Henry leads the defense with 46 tackles on the year. And when it comes to the number in this one, 3 out of ODU's last 5 ball games got over the number. La Tech's 5-2 to the over for the entire season themselves. Give me Old Dominion plus 5.5. And the over 52 and a hook. Next ball game, Colorado, Oregon, 3:30 p.m. East. Oregon's minus 24, totals 49. The 6-1 Ducks have won all 4 of their home games this season. This Oregon defense is allowing only 16 points a game at Altson Stadium. Veron McKinley has 4 interceptions, 40 tackles for the Ducks. Noah Sewell with 63 total tackles himself. They're taking on a Colorado team who lost 5 out of their last 6, and they really do a poor job moving the football. The Buffs are scoring only 15 points a game. They throw for $117 per contest. They're 129th in offensive yards per play on the road. Now, total-wise, Colorado's 6-1 to the under on the year. Oregon saw 2 out of their last 3 fall under the line. Give me Oregon minus 24 and the under 49. Next game, Minnesota, Northwestern, 3:30 p.m. Eastern start time. Minnesota's minus 7, totals 43.5. The Gophers are on a 3-game winning streak, 4-1 against the spread in their last 5. Minnesota's a top 25 rush offense. Meanwhile, defensively, they're holding their opponents to just 85 rush yards a game. Jack Gibbons leads the squad with 48 tackles and 3 PBUs. They're taking on a Northwestern team who lost 2 out of their last 3 and really struggles offensively. The Wildcats are throwing for just $176 a game at home. They're also second to last in college football in third quarter scoring. Northwestern's 3-1 to the under at Ryan Field. Meanwhile, Minnesota's 4-1 to the under in their last 5 ball games themselves. I'm going to lean toward Minnesota minus 7 and the under 43.5. Next contest, Florida State, Clemson, 3:30 Eastern kickoff. Clemson's minus 10, totals 46.5. The Tigers have failed to cover in all 7 of their ball games. The Tigers are 116th in the nation in home scoring. They're throwing for just $176 per contest. They're taking on a Florida State team who's on a 3-game winning streak. They scored 33 points or more in all 3 of those victories. The Noles are in the top 15 in rush yards per game, top 15 in offensive yards per play on the road. Total-wise, 2 out of Florida State's last 3 got over the number. They also went 60% to the over in their last 10 meetings with Clemson. I'm going to lead toward Florida State plus 10 and the over 46.5. Next game, Texas Tech, Oklahoma, 3:30 p.m. East. Oklahoma's minus 20, total 67.5. But as good as they've been this year, Oklahoma's failed to cover in 4 out of their last 6. They've also got a handful of injuries. They rank 113th in the country in pass defense. They're taking on a Texas Tech team who covered the number in 3 out of their last 4. And they also like to air it out. The Red Raiders are in the top 10 in offensive yards per play. And when it comes to the total in this one, 9 out of Tech's last 10 meetings with Oklahoma got over the total. Meanwhile, the Sooners saw 3 out of their last 4 get over the line themselves. Give me Texas Tech plus 20 and the over 67.5. Next contest, it is going to be Boston College versus Syracuse, 3:30 Eastern start time. Syracuse is minus 5.5, totals 51. The Orange has successfully covered the point spread in their last 6 straight. 4-1 against the spread this year at the Carrier Dome. CUSE is averaging nearly 250 yards a game on the ground. Sean Tucker's gained nearly 1,100 yards on the ground already, along with 10 rushing scores. The freshman running back's gaining 133 yards a game rushing. Syracuse is currently in the top 10 in rush yards per game. They're taking on a Boston College team who's on a 3-game losing streak, and they scored only 34 total points in those 3 losses. BC's throwing for just $176 through the air on the road. Now, total-wise, Syracuse saw 3 out of their last 4 ball games get over the total. Give me Syracuse minus 5.5 and the over 51. Next ball game, FIU versus Marshall, 3:30 Eastern kickoff. Marshall's minus 22, total 65.5. The Herds failed to cover in 4 out of their last 6. They also have one of the worst rush defenses in college football. They're allowing nearly 225 yards a game on the ground. They're taking on an FIU team who's led by quarterback Max Bortenschlager, who's thrown for over 2,000 yards, along with 15 touchdown passes. The Panthers are in the top 20 in second quarter scoring. When it comes to the number in this one, Florida International's 4-1 to the over in their last 5. Marshall went 71% to the over on the season themselves. Give me FIU plus 22 and the over 65.5. Next game, UL Monroe, Appalachian State, 3:30 p.m. East. Appy State's minus 28, totals 58. But despite a huge win against Coastal this past week, Appalachian State has failed to cover in 3 out of their last 5 ball games. They're also 1-2 against the spread on their home field. This Mountaineer defense ranks 101st in yards allowed per play at home. They're also 112th in the country in first quarter points allowed at home as well. They're taking on a UL Monroe team who's on a 2-game winning streak with big-time wins against the likes of South Alabama and Liberty. The Warhawks have done a pretty nice job covering the number here recently as well. 4-2 against the spread in their last 6. This Warhawk defense has 14 takeaways. They're led by linebacker Travion Webster, who has 52 tackles. The Warhawks are in the top 10 in fewest third quarter points allowed on the road. And when it comes to the total in this one, Appalachian State is 2-0 to the under in their last couple of games. 4-3 to the under overall for the season. Give me UL Monroe plus 28 in the under 58. Next ball game, Purdue, Nebraska, 3:30 p.m. East. Nebraska's minus 7.5, totals 50. The Cornhuskers lost 4 out of their last 5 ball games, 105th in the nation in first quarter scoring. They're taking on a Purdue squad who's beaten the likes of Iowa and Oregon State this year. The Boilermakers definitely like to air it out. Top 10 in the country in road passing. David Bell's averaging over 16 yards per reception and has 712 yards receiving on the year. As a matter of fact, the junior wideout is averaging over 101 yards a game receiving. Purdue's in the top 20 in second quarter scoring on the road. When it comes to the number in this one, Purdue's 3-0 to the under when traveling, 6-1 to the under for the entire season. Meanwhile, Nebraska saw 6 out of their last 8 meetings with Purdue fall under the total. I'm going to lean toward Purdue plus 7.5 in the under 50. Next matchup, Southern Miss, Middle Tennessee State, 3:30 p.m. Eastern start time. Middle Tennessee State's minus 13.5, numbers 48. The Raiders have covered in 3 out of their last 4 ball games. 2-0 against the spread on their home field this year. Quincy Riley has 3 interceptions on the season, a couple of PBUs for the corner. Meanwhile, Reed Blankenship has 5 PBUs and a couple of forced fumbles from that safety spot. He's also the team leader in tackles. They're taking on a Southern Miss team who's on a 5-game losing streak. 0-5 against the number in those losses. The Golden Eagles are scoring only 13 points a game when traveling, and they're rushing for only 88 yards a game on the road as well. Now, total-wise, Southern Miss went 3-0 to the over in their last 3 meetings with Middle Tennessee State. Meanwhile, the Blue Raiders saw 2 out of their last 4 get over the line. Give me Middle Tennessee State, minus 13.5, and the over 48. Next game, TCU, Kansas State, 3:30 p.m. East. K-State's -3, totals 58.5. The Wildcats have lost 3 out of their last 4 ball games, 1-3 against the number in those very contests. K-State's throwing for just $194 a game at home, and they rank 122nd in third quarter scoring at home as well. They're taking on a TCU team who has little problem moving the football. The Horned Frogs are scoring over 34 points a game, and they rank in the top 10 in offensive yards per play. Could we have a worse background? Zach Evans and Kendre Miller, they've combined for nearly 1,100 yards on the ground, along with 11 scores. TCU's rushing for nearly 290 yards a game away from home. 4 out of TCU's last 6 got over the line. K-State's 4-1 to the over in their last 5 themselves. Give me TCU +3 in the over 58.5. Next game, Wyoming, San Jose State, 4 o'clock Eastern kickoff. San Jose State's -3, numbers 41. San Jose State, the Spartans, they've covered in their last 2 straight. Top 20 in the nation and fewest yards allowed per play at home. Viliami Fehoko has 5 sacks on the year, 2 forced fumbles for the sophomore. Meanwhile, Kyle Harmon leads the team with 77 total tackles. They're taking on a Wyoming squad who lost their last 3 straight, and they've gone just 1-6 against the number all season long. The Cowboys are averaging just 22 points a game, and they throw for only $1.69 per contest. Now, total-wise, Wyoming's last 4 straight fell under the number. San Jose State's 4-3 to the under in their last 7. Give me San Jose State -3 and the under 41. Next contest, Charlotte, Western Kentucky, 4 o'clock Eastern start time. Western Kentucky's -18, numbers 73. The Hilltoppers have failed to cover in 3 out of their last 4 ball games. 35 points a game they're allowing on their home field. As a matter of fact, this WKU defense is 127th in pass defense at home. They're taking on a Charlotte team who ranks in the top 10 in offensive time of possession. Meanwhile, defensively, they're in the top 10 in fewest first quarter points allowed. Marquise Watts has 5 sacks on the season along with 43 tackles. Charlotte's 5-2 to the under thus far in the year. Western Kentucky saw their last 2 straight fall under the line. Give me Charlotte +18 and the under 73. Next ball game, Duke, Wake Forest, 4 o'clock Eastern start time. Wake Forest is -17, total 70. Now, the undefeated Demon Deacons have struggled against the number a little bit this season. They failed to cover in 2 out of their last 3 ball games, 1-3 against the spread overall at home this year. Wake Forest has had a tough time stopping the run. They're giving up nearly 210 yards a game on the ground. They're taking on a Duke team who likes to pound the football. 204 yards a game they gain on the ground themselves. Mateo Durant's averaging over 124 yards a game rushing, and he scored 9 times on the ground. Now, total-wise, Duke's 3-0 to the under in their last 3 ball games. Wake Forest saw 3 out of their last 4 home games fall under the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward Duke +17 and the under 70. Next contest, Arkansas State versus South Alabama, 5 o'clock East. South Alabama's -9, numbers 67. The South Alabama Jaguars are 3-1 straight up at home, and they're allowing only 142 yards a game passing on their home field. As a matter of fact, the Jags are in the top 10 in fewest yards allowed per play at home as well. South Alabama has 13 takeaways, and they're led by Yam Banks. He's got 34 tackles and a couple of forced fumbles. South Alabama gives up just 15 points a game at home. They're taking on an Arkansas State team who allows 51 points a game on the road and nearly 340 yards a game rushing when traveling. Needless to say, the Red Wolves are currently 0-3 straight up away from home. South Alabama saw their last 3 straight get over the number, 4-1 to the over in their last 5. Give me South Alabama -9 in the over 67. Next contest, Georgia State versus Georgia Southern, 6 p.m. Eastern kickoff. The Georgia State Panthers are -5. Totals 55. Georgia State's allowing 38 points a game on the road. And they rank 115th in road pass defense. They're taking on a Georgia Southern team who actually rushes for nearly 235 yards a game on the ground. Logan Wright and Gerald Green have 10 rushing touchdowns between the two of them. They're also both averaging nearly 7 yards a carry. The Eagles are in the top 20 in second quarter scoring at home. When it comes to the total in this one, 4 out of Georgia Southern's last 5 got over the line. 71% to the over for the entire season. Meanwhile, Georgia State's 3-0 to the over on the road, 5-2 to the over for the whole year themselves. Give me Georgia Southern +5. And the over 55. Next ball game, UTEP, FAU, 6 o'clock Eastern start time. FAU's -11.5, totals 47 and a hook. FAU's failed to cover in 3 out of their last 5 ball games. 102nd in the country in rush defense. They're taking on a UTEP squad who runs for over $190 a game on the road. And they also rank in the top 25 in road yards per play from scrimmage. Meanwhile, defensively, the Miners are in the top 15 in fourth quarter points allowed. Jadrian Taylor's 10th in the country with 6.5 sacks. I'm going to lean toward UTEP +11.5 and the over 47 and a hook. Next ball game, Ole Miss versus Auburn, 7 p.m. East. Auburn's -2.5, total 66. The Auburn Tigers are scoring 42 points a game at Jordan-Hare. Top 25 in offensive yards per play at home. Meanwhile, defensively, Auburn's allowing only 17 points a game on their home field. And they're holding their opponents to just 167 yards passing in that same category. Zacoby McClain's got 53 total tackles on the year. Chandler Wooten with 52. They're taking on an Ole Miss squad who's allowing 34 points a game on the road and over 215 yards a game rushing when they travel. The Rebels have also dropped 8 out of their last 10 meetings with Auburn, and they failed to cover in 80% of those contests. Now, total-wise, 3 out of the Rebels' last 4 ball games fell under the posted number. Meanwhile, 2 out of Auburn's last 3 fell under the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward Auburn -2.5 and the under 66. Next ball game, Kentucky, Mississippi State, 7 o'clock Eastern kickoff. Kentucky's -1, totals 47. The Wildcats are 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 straight. 6-1 against the spread overall for the season. This Wildcat defense allows only 19 points a game, and they rank in the top 3 in fewest first quarter points allowed on the road. DeAndre Square has 50 total tackles and 3 sacks. They're taking on a Mississippi State team who does not play very good defensively themselves. The Bulldogs are allowing over 30 points a game at home and 300 yards a game passing. Give me Kentucky -1 and the over 47. Next contest, Arizona versus USC, 7 o'clock Eastern start time. USC's -21, numbers 56. Despite a bit of a down year for the Trojans, they're still in the top 15 in passing. Keaton Slovis has thrown for over 1,800 yards. Meanwhile, wide receiver Drake London, he's a 1,000-yard receiver already with 5 scores. As a matter of fact, London's averaging over 143 yards a game receiving. The Trojans lead the NCAA in fourth quarter scoring. They're taking on a winless Arizona team who's 118th in offensive yards per play. The Wildcats are also scoring only 9 points a game on the road. Total-wise, the Wildcats are 3-0 to the under in their last 3 straight. USC saw 2 out of their last 3 stay under the line. Give me USC -21 and the under 56 in the tight window. Next game, Kansas, Oklahoma State, 7 o'clock East. Oklahoma State's -30, totals 54.5. Oklahoma State's 5-0 against the number in their last 5 straight. 4-0 straight up on their home field this year. This Cowboy defense allows just 94 rush yards a game. Malcolm Rodriguez has 72 tackles and a scoop and score. Devin Harper also has 46 tackles and 2.5 sacks. They're taking on a 1-6 Kansas team who failed to cover 6 times During that stretch, the Jayhawks are 123rd in scoring, and they allow over 53 points a game on the road. Now, total-wise, Kansas is 3-0 to the over when traveling. I'm going to lean toward Oklahoma State minus 30 and the over 54.5. Next contest, Boise State versus Colorado State, 7 o'clock East. Boise's minus 2.5, totals 51. The Broncos are 3-0 against the number when traveling. They're also in the top 25 in passing. They're led by Hank Bachmeier, who's thrown for over 1,950 yards, along with a dozen touchdowns. Boise is also holding their opponents to 19 points a game on the road. They're taking on a Colorado State team who's 100th in the nation in home scoring, 109th in first quarter scoring as well. The Rams have also lost 2 out of their last 3 at home. When it comes to the total in this one, Colorado State's 5-2 to the under on the season. Boise saw their last 3 road games fall under the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Boise minus 2.5 and the under 51. Next contest, SMU versus Houston, 7 o'clock Eastern start time. Houston's minus 1, number 62.5. Houston's on a 6-game winning streak, 4-2 against the number in those victories. The Cougs allow only 17 points a game, and they're in the top 15 in pass defense. Donovan Mutin has 44 tackles and 3 forced fumbles. Houston's in the top 15 in fewest first quarter points allowed. They're taking on an SMU team who ranks 100th in pass defense. They also lost 6 out of their last 10 meetings with the Cougars. Total-wise, SMU saw 2 out of their last 3 stay under the line, believe it or not. They're also 60% to the under in their last 10 meetings with Houston. Now, the Cougars saw 2 out of their last 3 home games fall under the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Houston minus 1 and the under 62.5. Next contest, Oregon State versus Cal, 7 o'clock East. The Oregon State Beavers are minus 1.5, totals 55. The Beavers have won 5 out of their last 6 ball games, 5-1 against the spread during that stretch. Oregon State scoring over 35 points a game, and they're in the top 10 in rush yards per game. B.J. Baylor scored 10 times on the ground and averages 7 yards a carry. He's also gaining over 118 yards a game on the ground as well. Meanwhile, on the other side of the ball, Oregon State has a top 25 rush defense. They're taking on a Cal team who lost 3 out of their last 4 and ranks 108th in home scoring. And when it comes to the number in this one, Cal's 3-0 to the under in their last 3 straight. Oregon State saw 2 out of their last 3 stay under the line. Give me Oregon State minus 1.5 and the under 55. Next ball game, it is going to be Penn State versus Ohio State, 7:30 p.m. Eastern kickoff. Ohio State's minus 18, total 60. The Buckeyes have won their last 5 straight, 4-0 against the number in their last 4. The Buckeyes lead college football in scoring on average per game. They're also in the top 3 in offensive yards per play. C.J. Stroud's thrown for nearly 2,000 yards and 22 touchdown passes. The Buckeyes are throwing for over 370 yards a game at home. They're taking on a Penn State team who's on a 2-game losing streak and failed to cover in 3 out of their last 4. The Nittany Lions have failed to establish a proper run game. They're 101st in rush yards per contest. They're also 112th in offensive yards per play on the road. When it comes to the number in this one, Ohio State saw their last 3 straight get over the number, 71% to the over for the whole year. Give me Ohio State minus 18 and the over 60. Next contest, North Carolina versus Notre Dame, 7:30 Eastern start time. Notre Dame's minus 3.5, total 62. But despite their record, Notre Dame struggled to run the football this year. They're 114th in the country in rush offense. Notre Dame's also 119th in first quarter scoring. They're taking on a Tar Heel team who scores 37 points a game and runs for nearly 200 yards. Certainly no problem scoring for the Tar Heels this year. Quarterback Sam Howell's rushing for over 5 yards a carry, and he scored 5 times on the ground. Now, Howell's also thrown for over 1,850 yards, along with 18 touchdown passes. UNC's in the top 10 in the nation in first quarter scoring. When it comes to the total in this one, 4 out of UNC's last 6 got over the number. Meanwhile, Notre Dame's 4-3 to the over for the entire season themselves. Give me North Carolina, plus 3.5. And the over 62. Next game, Louisville, NC State, 7:30 p.m. East. NC State's -7, numbers 57. Wolfpack's 4-0 straight up at home, 3-1 against the number in those home games. Wolfpack's allowing only 13 points a game at Carter Finley Stadium. They're also in the top 10 in rush defense. Drake Thomas has 53 tackles and a couple of sacks. The linebacker also has 2 interceptions. They're taking on a Louisville squad who lost 2 out of their last 3 and ranks 116th in pass defense. Now, total-wise, 4 out of NC State's last 5 ball games got over the total. I'm going to lean toward NC State -7 in the over 57. Next contest, it is going to be UCLA versus Utah. 10 o'clock Eastern kickoff. Utah's -7, total 60.5. The Utes have failed to cover in 2 out of their last 3 home games. 29% against the spread overall for the season. This Utah offense is 119th in second quarter scoring at home. They're taking on a UCLA program who's 3-0 straight up on the road this year. 3-0 against the spread in those road victories. The Bruins are scoring over 33 points a game, and they're rushing for nearly 260 yards a game on the road. Zach Charbonnet and Britton Brown, they've combined for over 1,200 rushing yards and 13 touchdowns between the two of them. The Bruins are in the top 15 in fourth quarter scoring. And when it comes to the number in this one, UCLA's 3-0 to the over when traveling, 70% to the under. Did I say 3-0 to the under? I meant 3-0 to the under when traveling, 70% to the under in their last 10 meetings with Utah. Give me UCLA +7, under 60.5. Next game, Virginia, BYU, 10:15 East. BYU's -2.5, total 64. The Cougs have failed to cover in their last 3 straight, 1-4 against the spread in their last 5. BYU's also 105th in stopping the run at home. They're taking on a Virginia squad who's on a 4-game winning streak, 4-0 against the spread in those 4 victories. Virginia throws for more yards on the road than any other team in college football. Brennan Armstrong's thrown for over 3,200 yards, along with 23 touchdowns. Dontavian Wicks, he's averaging over 22 yards per reception, and he's caught 8 touchdown passes. Wicks is also averaging over 105 receiving yards a game. Now, total-wise, 4 out of Virginia's last 5 fell under the number, 75% to the under for the entire season. Meanwhile, BYU's 6-2 to the under for the entire year themselves. I'm going to lean toward Virginia +2.5 and the under 64. Next contest, Fresno State versus San Diego State, 10:30 p.m. East. The San Diego State Aztecs are -1, numbers 45. The undefeated Aztecs are 5-1 against the spread in their last 6. They're allowing only 15 points a game, and they have the number 2 ranked rush defense at home in the country. Patrick McMorris has 47 total tackles and 6 PBUs. San Diego State also has 9 interceptions on the season. They're taking on a Fresno team who ranks 111th in fourth quarter points allowed. The Bulldogs have also failed to cover in 3 out of their last 4 ball games. Total-wise, 4 out of Fresno's last 6 contests got over the number. Give me San Diego State -1 and the over 45. And with that, guys, it's time for our next and final matchup. Washington versus Stanford, 10:30 Eastern kickoff. Stanford's -2.5, totals 48. Stanford's on a 2-game losing streak, 1-3 against the spread in their last 4. The Cardinal has a bunch of guys on the injury report. They're also 115th in the country in rush defense. They're taking on a Washington team who gives up just 19 points a game and has the number 1 pass defense in the nation. Jackson Sermon has 52 tackles and a forced fumble. Washington's in the top 15 in first quarter points allowed on the road. Now, total-wise, 6 out of Washington's last 10 meetings with Stanford got over the total. Meanwhile, Stanford saw 3 out of their last 6 get over the number themselves. Give me Washington +2.5 and the over 48. With that, guys, now it's time for our quick pick recap. Powered to you by my website at brockpage.com, where we are 5-1 in our last 6 college football tier package picks. I like Troy plus 18.5 over 52 and a hook. East Carolina minus 9.5 over 57. Navy plus 11 over 47. UNLV plus 21 under 59. Texas State plus 21 under 57. Cincinnati minus 24 over 62 and a hook. Michigan State plus 4.5 under 52. Baylor minus 2.5 over 62. Buffalo minus 12.5 over 53. Iowa plus 3.5 under 37. Maryland minus 3 over 50.5. Liberty minus 36 under 58 and a hook. Pittsburgh, the Pitt Panthers minus 10 over 62. Illinois plus 1.5 under 42. Temple plus 11 over 52 points. Virginia Tech plus 4 under 55. West Virginia plus 7 under 47.5. North Texas plus 3 over 55 and a hook. Washington State plus 15 under 51.5. Vanderbilt plus 16 under 63. Utah State minus 5.5 under 65. Georgia minus 14 under 51. Old Dominion plus 5.5 over 52 and a hook. Oregon minus 24 under 49. Minnesota minus 7 under 43.5. Florida State plus 10 over 46 and a hook. Texas Tech plus 20 over 67.5. Syracuse minus 5.5 over 51. Florida International plus 22 over 65.5. UL Monroe plus 28 under 58 points. Purdue plus 7.5 under 50. Middle Tennessee State minus 13.5 over 48. TCU plus 3 over 58.5. San Jose State minus 3 under 41. Charlotte plus 18 under 73. Duke plus 17 under 70. South Alabama minus 9 over 67. Georgia Southern plus 5 over 55. UTEP plus 11.5 over 47 and a hook. Auburn minus 2.5 under 66. Kentucky minus 1 over 47. USC minus 21 under 56. Oklahoma State minus 30 over 54.5. Boise State minus 2.5 under 51. Houston minus 1 under 62 and a hook. Oregon State minus 1.5 under 55. Ohio State minus 18 over 60. North Carolina plus 3.5 over 62. NC State minus 7 over 57. UCLA plus 7 under 60.5. Virginia plus 2.5 under 64. San Diego State minus 1 over 45. And before I give you my next and final free pick for the video, one final reminder that we are 5-1 in our last 6 college football tier package picks on brockpage.com. We're also 8-1 in our last 9 NFL tier package picks on that very same website. I'm going to lean toward Washington plus 2.5 and the over 48. With that, guys, now it's time for our shout out of the day. And that's going to go out to my good friend Black's Blazer, who said earlier today, "I appreciate your work." Thank you, B. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on brockpage.com. Now, if you guys do end up getting a membership here today on that website, just keep in mind, you're going to get billed the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. So if you do end up getting a membership here today on brockpage.com, just keep in mind you are going to get access to that content through the end of October. But I always tell folks in every single video, the earlier in the month you sign up, the better. But most importantly, guys, gotta thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. With that said, guys, happy Tuesday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at brockpage.com.